Hello, I'm producer Gary Earl, and you're listening to Music City Online. Tonight, our guest is the lovely and talented Misha Williams Tristan. Is that right?
That's right.
Formerly the artist Misha Williams. Well, actually, you're still the artist Misha Williams.
Still, yes.
Still the artist. So, like most people in the music community in Nashville, she has worn multiple hats. She's an artist. You released an album in the UK, and as I understand, your songs have sold over 250,000 units worldwide.
That's right.
I mean, that's big time stuff. That's great.
Thank you.
In addition to being an artist, though, she also has her own company, and she's also the director of publishing at TKO, Toby Keith's company.
We represent Toby's song catalogs and him as an artist.
Gotcha.
So I handle all of his publishing.
And, well, we'll get more into TKO later, but as director of publishing at TKO, Misha has worked with some of Nashville's most esteemed writers, including Toby Keith, Mac McAnally, Craig Wiseman. Let's talk for a minute about you as an artist first, because obviously that's where you started and that's where you're coming from, right? Mm-hmm. So now it says here that you went over to Japan to promote your album, but your album was out of Europe? I mean, out of UK?
Well, basically the way that it kind of all came about was I started working with a producer from London and connected with a bunch of people on that side of the world and wrote with a couple of Danish writers. And
that's cool.
We kind of put together a little team to release my album out in the UK. And I got to, go on the road and do a lot of like radio tours and stuff like that, which was really fun. And then I ended up getting to go on the road as a supporting act for Girls Aloud, which is like a big UK pop girl band. And that was an arena tour. So that was a lot of fun performing for thousands of people a night, which, that's just kind of a awesome experience to get to do that. And
I don't think there's anything in the world more fun than that.
Yeah. I mean, probably one of the best nights of my life was getting to perform at Wembley Arena. That was, it was kind of like bucket list, checked off the list.
Exactly.
So,
in the footsteps of the Who and the Beatles, the Stones, and I mean, it's an iconic venue.
Right. And I've seen concerts there and I was like, I'm playing here. How cool.
You were just talking about it on the tour you were on. I have down under the category of gigs from hell. I like to ask everyone on the show if they've had a gig from hell. This is about the microphone mishap. Was that on that tour?
It was on that tour.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically,
it was a big audience. Even
it was a huge audience, and so normally the girl would bring the mic off and hand it to the stage manager.
Right.
The stage manager would get it ready for me, and then I'd go up. And since I was on a pop tour, my music would start. I'd go out on stage with my microphone in hand. Well, that didn't happen on this particular show. I think that somehow the microphone did not end up where it was supposed to be, and my music cue started. And so I was like, oh no, I bet it's out on stage on the mic stand. That was where my brain went. And it was a good, I mean, it was a good guess. Of course, it wasn't. So, I go out on stage as my music is starting and I'm like, oh, microphone is not on the stand. So I turn back around and they finally find it backstage. And so they restart the music cue and everything. So I come up on stage and I'm like, well, that's what happens when you don't have a microphone, and just kind of played it off and didn't even worry about it. And so I was just like, what, at this point, show must go on. And, I guess one thing that was kind of interesting about it was that I know that lip syncing is a very common thing on a lot of tours like that.
It is now,
especially.
Sure. Yeah.
And for me, at least, it was kind of like a taboo kind of thing. It wasn't too long after that became like a huge, thing in America. Yeah. And so, whenever I had done my sound check, one of the sound engineers was like, oh, are you singing live? Or are you miming? And as if they were expecting me to mime on the tour. And I was like, oh no, I'm singing. I'm singing. It was just crazy to me that they would expect me to say that I was lip syncing, you know.
Less work for the engineer if you did.
Exactly, I know. But yeah, it was kind of funny. I was like, well, at least people know I'm not lip syncing.
Yeah.
So that was funny.
Here's this is the American album cover. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. That was, we had several different releases, one in the UK, one in Japan, and they all had different
album cover for each area.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the one we did for the US.
I know. So yeah, this one looks very elegant, sexy, but very elegant and classy.
Thank you.
The British one looked a little artsy or grungy, maybe even.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. The Japanese one looked a lot more like you're trying to be real sexy.
Well, you know,
is that the right word?
It's kind of funny because I know in the UK they were really. It's funny as an artist because you have a lot of people on a team around you, and they're like, "We need you to be more like this. We need you to be more like this." And you know, there's pluses and minuses to that as an artist. But in the UK, it was like, "We need you to be more edgy, more grungy, more less."
Less
sweet,
polished,
less sweet. We need you to be like really interesting and like dangerous and edgy and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, but I'm really like a nice person. Like, how do I pretend to be like this crazy, thing? So that was kind of funny. But so they made the album cover more like that, and then we'd released a single called Unexpectedly. And before the label in Japan picked it up, we did a music video out in LA, and it was kind of an Alice in Wonderland theme for the video. And so I'm wearing the big white poofy dress, and there's like a bunny rabbit, and there's a guy that's like, we're doing like the Mad Hatter and the Tea Party whole kind of thing going on. It's really kind of fun. It was a great experience doing that. But I guess the record label in Japan picked up on that whole Alice in Wonderland vibe, and they were like, that's your image for Japan. So that's why
like
it's
the whole fantasy thing, and because it's true, they're really into fantasy and sci-fi and things. It's true.
So everything that I did in Japan was like, here, you're this like, very well put together, big poofy dresses, and I'm like, wow, I would have never picked that out for myself, but you know what? It was cool at the time, so it was pretty fun. Exactly. But totally two different markets and two different images. It just kind of like shows you what when you have a completely different team behind you, what will come out.
Well, things that happen like that. A good friend of mine wrote and sang in the year 2525, which was translated into 25 different languages around the world.
Oh, wow.
And re-sang by artists in each country. And what's interesting about that is, if you know very much about other languages, you know that there are some languages things don't translate very well.
Yes.
The German cover translated great because German and English are both kind of technical, and we have a lot of hard consonants. And, but French, smooth romance language. And so in the year 2525, is about science fiction and technology and the future. And the lyrics that were translated in French came out saying, the butterflies drift along the canal as couples in love walk hand in hand. Didn't have anything to do with his song. Total different lyrics.
Wow.
But the French were not interested in having a dark, apocalyptic.
Interesting.
So they made the lyrics more French.
Wow.
So tell us about promoting in Japan, about scheduling, obviously using translators on live TV.
Yeah, it was really cool. First of all, I just had like a blast in Japan. It was something like I would do over and over again. It was one of the coolest experiences of my life. I love seeing new cultures and just I really embrace the Japanese culture. I feel that I learned a lot while I was there, and so we had a pretty pretty busy schedule when I was there. They were we were doing interviews just back to back to back to back to back to back, and it was kind of exhausting, but definitely worth it. And I know we had to like put a lot into a very short period of time.
Mostly radio stations or TV shows, or a combination of everything.
I would say the bulk of it was probably more like magazine interviews, stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. I forgot even about that.
Yeah, they had a ton of stuff like that. And then we did quite a few different TV shows. Some were really fun and totally interesting and weird. And for instance, there was one live morning show, I guess, and just doing the interviews with a translator. It's a very interesting process because let's say you're interviewing me and I have a translator behind my head and you are speaking to me in Japanese. I'm like, okay, I don't know what you're saying. Like, I don't understand, but I'm listening to you, I'm engaging you. And in my other ear, I have this person telling me in English what they're saying. And so I'm like trying to pay attention, listening here. And then I'm like, okay, I have to figure out what I'm about to say. And then as I'm saying it, I'm speaking to this person who can't understand me. And I'm like, oh, and this is what I think about this, or, you know, however it would go. And then as I'm speaking in English, this person is speaking to the person I'm looking at in Japanese translating it as I'm talking. And so it's a very trippy experience, especially on live TV, which, you know, answering one question can, you know,
I never thought about that. It would be a lot
it's a very interesting triangle.
A lot more intense.
It is. It is. But it was really fun. It went really well. And
never thought about that.
Yeah. And we had one TV show that was really pretty funny to do. They had me in a spaceship. Like like a spaceship, just with a tiny little screen, and I was looking at these people, and I don't even remember exactly how we did it, but we had to have like a translator thing going on. So it was just one of those trippy things where I'm like, I am literally sitting in Japan, like in Tokyo, in a spaceship set, and they're asking me questions, and it was hilarious. I love Japanese TV. It's so funny.
Wildly creative, bizarre TV shows.
Oh yes.
Just so some strange. Of their reality shows and game shows are really over the top.
Yeah. But it's really fun. It's really fun.
Excellent.
Cool place.
And you saw your video in the big square in Tokyo, right? Which is kind of like Times Square in New York City, right? There's a very famous Tokyo shot.
Yeah, in Shibuya Square.
And they played your video on the screen there, huh? On the side of the building. Cool.
Well, I'll tell you, that was probably like one of the coolest moments of my life. Just, you know, I'm sitting there in my hotel room in that area in the Shibuya Square, and I'm just looking at all the lights. And if you've ever been to Tokyo or a big city like that, you're just like, man, this is crazy. Just, I can't believe I'm here.
Overload.
Exactly.
Overload.
Yeah. And so I was just like, man, this is crazy. And I was just looking out, and I stared. I was just looking out across, you know, the street, I guess, and I was like, that's me. Oh my God. Like I think I probably like scared the people in the rooms next to me.
They didn't even tell you?
They didn't tell me, no.
Oh, I thought maybe they told you and you were standing.
No, it was like the biggest surprise.
It was just on and you happened to see it.
I had no idea.
Wow.
Well, and I didn't know at the time, but they had my video on rotation on this thing every like 7 or 8 minutes, because they were
giant thing.
They were tying it into like a movie release with a song that was in this movie. And so I was just like, oh my God. It was crazy awesome though. One of the most fun things. So like we went down and like took pictures with it, and we were like, it's on the screen. How fun. So that was probably like one of the best things.
That is way
best experiences that I got to have as a memory.
Well, and I mean, how cool and how fortunate that your hotel room looked out on that, or you might not have even known it.
That was really cool.
Wow, that's way cool. Excellent.
Yeah.
So, and the album's released in UK. Then, I mean, do they promote a lot of albums in Japan, or?
It was, it was
like a halfway around the world.
It was a separate deal, just the way that we had, developed relationships with people like on that side of the world. And
just,
it was a guy
one of those crazy things in entertainment. Yeah.
Right, a guy that knew, had a connection. They were like, this would work really well in this market. So we kind of worked it out that way, which was
cool.
Very awesome.
Oh, actually, we should play some music.
Oh, yeah.
You could tend to play some music.
Sure.
Let's hear.
Well, we can do the first track. This is the one that was the single that had the...
Really nice.
Thank you.
I really like it. So is that cut in London? Where'd you record? You recorded here.
We actually recorded some of it in Denmark with the writers that I wrote with, and then finished it out in Chicago, where we finished mixing and all that.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah. I love Denmark. The people are so wonderful. I have never had a bad experience meeting Scandinavians, honestly, in general. They're just great people from the ones that I've come across, so.
Well, let's go on then to your time at TKO.
Okay.
And part of the reason why I want to talk about, as a director of publishing, I'm assuming that there's a wealth of things that you could educate our viewers on, some good tips and things. And by the way, I'd like to say that TKO is not just, your average staid Nashville publishing company. I stopped by there the other day, and and this is what everyone, dresses like every day, I guess. It's TKO.
Let me see. Oh my gosh. Yes, that was Halloween.
Oh, Halloween.
Years
okay.
ago.
Okay. Here I just thought you guys were all strange all the time. This looks like a typical LA publishing
We
company.
should absolutely wear that all day, every day. That's awesome.
I'm sorry, I'm a big Halloween fan anyway.
I know you are. I've seen you several times on
that's,
Halloween.
That's true. Right?
That's awesome.
Okay, so now, as obviously you've through the years picked up a lot of knowledge in publishing, or you wouldn't have the job you have now. So, are there like a handful of bullet points that you could tell our viewers? Well, like for example, what would be a definite no-no if somebody is approaching a publisher for trying to get a writer's deal, or even just trying to get a song placed? What's the worst thing that a writer could do?
Worst thing a writer can do? Well, it's really tough. I think that pretty much most companies, they have like a no unsolicited material policy, and so it's kind of tough because you can't. It's really hard to just be like, hey, listen to my song, and
got to get a referral.
Yeah, and I really think that the best. I mean, it takes time, and it's really, I know a lot of people are like, well, how do I get people to listen to my songs? And we'll get calls all the time, and it's unfortunate because I understand as a musician and a songwriter that it's hard to get a door open to you.
So what's a good route to get a door in? I mean, obviously a referral from someone who already writes at the company is one option, right?
Yeah.
Any other options that you mentioned?
For me, I would say I guess what's worked the best for me as a person and musician,
right,
is just getting as familiar as I can with the process, with meeting people in the industry, and not just meeting people and asking them for something. I think that a lot of people make a mistake by just, if they have a shot and they're like, oh, I want this person to listen to my song, just asking like right away. The thing is, I think that a lot of people don't realize that, as much as we like to think that, they would be, so happy to listen to our songs, if they're doing it every single day and, there's other things that are happening in their lives. Like they're not just, they're not just waiting for you to hand your song over to them. And I think what's been the best thing for me to just really embrace is that these people are people, and they, have other things that they do. They have, other interests and other thoughts. And I think getting to know people on a personal level and not asking something from them immediately. I feel like it's a lot easier to ask for a favor, or maybe even have them say, oh, take an interest in you and what you're doing, if you're not always asking them for something. So and I know that's hard.
Develop a relationship.
Exactly. Developing a relationship and getting involved, being around, being consistent, and being consistently present, you know,
and
so where people will start taking notice of you. And, you know, if you can have a casual conversation with someone that you would want to play a song for.
And if
you know,
a writer wants to get a foot in the door with you being, figuratively, meaning any publisher, So rather, you can develop a relationship with your PRO rep at ASCAP, BMI, CSAC,
right?
And then they can give you referrals.
Absolutely.
And they may not always give you a referral to the exact publisher that you want. They'll give you a referral to the publisher that they know is looking for writers and that you might be a good fit with. So there's a lot of things involved there. For example, quickly, briefly, with music supervisors, you'd be amazed how many people will just, email an MP3 or email like, please listen to this song. I know you'll love it. But what you have to do is you do something that helps the music supervisor rather than asking for a favor. So you need to do your homework. You need to know what the music supervisor is working on currently and what they actually need, and make sure that you only pitch something that is 100% exactly what they need at the time that they need it. And then your odds go up greatly of getting
It's like make smart pitches, do your homework, and try not to bombard people with stuff. Or I mean, it's tough because sometimes you only have one shot and people will remember, even if you think, well, maybe they won't remember that. They might, they might just remember that, like, oh, that person sent something that, wasn't good.
Exactly. That's the worst thing you can do is just bang, please listen to this song. I know you'll love it, because.
And especially especially when people hype their music, that's really a turn off to a lot of people, because they'll decide whether or not they think that it's great if they get it around to listening to it. But I think if you say, this is the best thing you've ever heard, most of the time
it's a problem.
And usually people will take that as an amateur move, because a lot of professionals wouldn't say that. So
no, exactly.
So maybe that's a tip. Hopefully that will help somebody.
That's a real important one too. Exactly. It's true.
Yeah, I think really just remembering that, industry professionals are people, and they want a connection with people that, are their friends and their peers and stuff like that. And, a lot of times building relationships like that takes time. So
it almost always takes time.
Yeah.
It almost always. And part of what you're talking about, sometimes I call that creative stalking.
So that's a great term.
I've done that with music supervisors, just do your homework. And, if they have something they're passionate about, there was one music super that one night a month DJs at, can't remember the name of the club, but it's in Hollywood. And so I made sure that I was there for the party the night that he was DJing,
Cool.
And got to know him that way in what appeared to be very casual, but for me it was a trip to Los Angeles and the whole thing was planned. and I knew that that he had a kid the same age as mine that was into a certain type of stuff, so I made sure that got up in the conversation and developed into a relationship.
Yeah,
you find some common ground.
Exactly. And I think for a lot of people that's an intimidating thing if they don't know anything about the person. But
in this day and age, there's no reason for not knowing a lot about everyone on the internet.
It's very true.
I mean, you can learn a tremendous amount on the internet.
That's very true.
It's almost scary.
I know. I agree.
Is your music still available on iTunes?
I haven't even looked for a while, so probably. But I'll have to double check for you. But I think it should be.
Well, if anyone wants to hear more and buy some of your music, they know where to Google.
Right. And you can contact me off of my website. There's a form, which is just MishaWilliams.com.
Oh, so, exactly. I'll get links on the video and underneath too. Tell us something we don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm I guess I've always been just a kind of artistic person. So I'm very much into crafting, and I love making things. So, you know, my latest thing that I've gotten into is crocheting, and I had been doing some knitting.
Karen was talking about crocheting last week.
Really?
She crochets on the bus all the time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I you know, when we were driving home for Christmas this year, I was making scarves for family. Probably like 6 hours of the trip, I was just making scarves, and
that's cool.
I'm trying to put together some cool things, but I like drawing and making jewelry, and I used to make guitar pick earrings and stuff like that. I haven't done that in a while, but anything that's like quirky and unique and stuff like that, I like to make and wear. And so that's one thing people probably don't know about me, but I love I could talk crafting with people for hours. So it's all about relating with people on a personal level, right?
There you go. Well, here you go. So if anybody wants to creatively stalk you, they should bring up a conversation about crafting.
I will talk to you about crafting.
So if you're waiting on the street outside TKO, bring your crocheting needles.
Crocheting hooks, yes.
There is a difference between crocheting and knitting. I'm sorry, I'm
it's okay.
Really
knitting, it's 2 long needles, and crocheting is 1 hook.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Now I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, I thought of something you'd ask me. What is something that I want to share with people? I think this might be helpful for your viewers. So I know a lot of artists and creative people and musicians are probably watching. One thing that I learned through all of my experiences overseas, internationally touring, and all that kind of stuff, is how little I knew about the business. And and I found out, that there's a whole lot that I needed to know just to be able to try to make a living doing this and make sure that I wasn't missing out on royalties that I didn't know about. And that's honestly like a lot of the inspiration on why I got into publishing was because as a songwriter, I was, selling albums overseas and everything. And I was like, well, I should be making money on this. I just don't know how or how much or why or how it works. So that's when I decided, I need to learn more about this and understand how it works. And so that I kind of got into the publishing administration side so that I could take care of my own stuff, as well as, I developed a passion for making sure that other people were getting what they should be making, for their creative endeavors. And I think that the more you know about the business side, the better you will be. There's so many avenues and opportunities for people to make additional types of revenue streams for their music. And I feel like if people don't know about it, they're just missing out on money that they could be earning. Like, for instance, and I don't know if anyone who's been on the show has talked about it yet, but if you're out there performing songs that you've written at venues, if you're a member of ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC, they have live programs where you can submit to ASCAP on stage or BMI Live. I'm not sure what the one for CSAC's called, but you can make money off of your performances. They'll send you a check. It's like mailbox money, and it's just every little bit helps. I think when you're out there on the road and you're, scrambling to make ends meet and make a living doing music. And that's one thing that helps. And I know that a lot of artists that are putting their music on digital services haven't thought to sign up for Sound Exchange. That's one revenue stream that if you're on a certain services and you're getting airplay, that you can make money. So,
and you talked about the additional streams. Opryland theme park. My wife, my voice coach wife, Robin, and I did a Halloween children's album along with another writer, Lois Zuchek, in LA for, I don't remember who the record label was. We did a Halloween children's album.
Cool.
And Opryland theme park started using that with all their performers when they do their Halloween show every year. And my ASCAP rep said, oh, you need to apply for this. And there was a one-page form that you filled out to get money for if your music was performed in unusual venues that weren't normally targeted by ASCAP and BMI.
Wow, that's
like
cool.
theme parks or community theater.
Yeah.
And I filled it out, and I thought, well, whatever, and I was shocked at how much money I got.
Wow.
From it, but,
so cool.
And I wouldn't have ever realized that needed to be done. So I understand exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Very
it's
good.
a very, very good thing to know and just be aware of if you're a musician out there performing your own music you've written.
Follow the money.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks. It's been good having you all here, and I'd like to thank my production coordinator, Robin, and Des, too, who's also co-producer of our show. And we will see you next week, hopefully, here. And in the meantime, see you all in the studio. Good night.